Hey, what's going on, kids? And welcome to Kicker Rock's podcast, 2 Drink Minimum. And you know what that means. It's just, a bunch of friends getting together, talking shop. And today we got a very special topic, and that is the Milwaukee 48-hour film project. We're talking about our film, what it's like filming during a pandemic, and all the films that participated in this year's Milwaukee 48. So sit back, relax, have a drink with us, and enjoy. You know what that sound means, everybody? It's time for 2 Drink Minimum. I'm Bill.
I'm Sergio.
Tony Marino.
James T.
Laura. I'm back, guys.
Hey! You did great.
Thanks. I'm sitting here with my black tea concentrate, 3 for 3.
Oh.
What are you guys drinking?
That's quite the deal.
Thanks.
Yeah, I'm rocking a little vodka and Red Bull tonight. I was kind of tired, so a little pick me up.
Old school Kicker Rock.
Yeah, I'm going to a rave right after this. So,
I'm rocking the Jameson and ginger. That's been my drink of choice. I think this is the official Sergio drink of the 2020 pandemic, Jameson and ginger. So,
well, you guys sound like you're all having fun. I can't taste any of my drinks, so I'm getting rid of my Coke Zero and just having a water because COVID.
Oh, because everybody's probably worried listening now. You're doing okay, right?
I'm alive. I'll be fine.
He will be.
Yeah.
Stay positive. JT, what are you drinking?
Dihydrogen oxide on the rocks.
Okay. Some good stuff there. What are we talking about today, gang? We're talking about the Milwaukee 48-hour film project, which we were fortunate enough to participate in this year during a pandemic. And that's where we're going to start the conversation today, because we are going to talk about the rest of the films and the teams that participated. We thought it was an excellent year, and we do want to give a shout out to all these teams and talk about their films a little bit. But first, we are going to talk about our film, Two Coats, which we shot earlier this year. And it was the first thing we shot in a long time. So if you're sitting there wondering, when am I going to see another Kicker Rock sketch or a short film? It's been a while, hasn't it? So fortunately for us, we had this opportunity with the 48-hour film project in Milwaukee. They actually held it. Not every city is able to do that this year. So we're very lucky that we were close. And the production team over there let us do it remotely, which is awesome. I think they let all the teams do it remotely, where you didn't have to drive all the way out there to turn it in. Very, very generous to them. And speaking of that production team, that is led by Warren Matson, his wife Maggie, and the rest of the production crew and volunteers for the Milwaukee 48. We just want to give you guys a quick shout out and a very heartfelt thank you for letting us do this. So it was very awesome. So cheers to you guys. Cheers.
Yeah, cheers.
So the 48 guys this year, it was a trip, right? I mean, so we decided to shoot a 48 during a pandemic, and it went a little awry. Just because of the not maybe awry is the wrong word. It was
awry, more like a wrong. What the hell?
It was just different. It was just different at first. We tried to figure out how we were going to navigate doing this to the best of our ability, and also to be as safe as possible, obviously, because these are strange times that we're living in.
Yeah, what was that new thing that they wanted us to practice this year? It was called Safe Set?
Safe Set.
Safe Set, good call. Yeah, right? How fun is that? That's an easy thing to remember.
Yeah.
So, Tony, tell us about Safe Set. What were some of the guidelines for that?
Obviously, making sure everybody showing up to set was feeling well, practicing social distancing as much as you can on set, masks when possible, and I want to say small numbers, you know what I mean? Keeping cast and crew to a minimum, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and a couple other things like that I thought were really good. Like, obviously, we are a small production, but I felt like actually taking that like little test that they had online also focused on craft services and, making sure to have all disposable, which, we don't want to use, too much plastic forks and things like that. But it was suggested that you use stuff that you can throw away because you really don't want to reuse forks, reuse plates, reuse cups, and just really focus on like wiping out an area and not having too many people, in the craft services area, and not having too many people, if you don't need everyone there on set at the same time, like schedule your shoot times better. So I thought like a lot of that information was very helpful.
Yeah, but see, here at Kick Rock, we took it one step further, and because we cared so much about the environment and not getting people sick, we just didn't feed anybody altogether at that shoot. Which is exactly what happened, is that we worked through lunch, and we were like, hey, we just got to keep hitting this, and we'll be done soon.
Now, that might be the first 48 in our history that we haven't done lunch or anything, right?
And you know what, though? Like, I will say that, for the Milwaukee, we usually try to keep it to our, like, minimum to a skeleton crew. So when it's just kind of those core members of Kick Rock who understand, like, hey, look, we're just running and gunning right now. I mean, granted, if somebody was hungry, we would have stopped, but we were all just more anxious to get it done, I think. Yeah. If we were on a full set with,
15, 20 people.
Right. Then definitely, hey, look, we're taking a break and we're feeding everybody for sure.
Yeah. In this case, it was just us plus Rula. Unfortunately, Rue was totally cool with us just blasting through.
Yeah. Yep.
So she totally could have demanded lunch, by the way. We would have been fine with it, but she was very kind. Let us just blast through it. So yeah, that was awesome. Laura, you were not there for this one. You weren't able to do this one with us, but you've done several 48s with us, almost all of them, in fact. So
that's true.
I know, like, before we started this, you said you had some questions for us about this particular 48 because of the conditions that it was in. So what did you have to ask us really quick?
Yeah, I mean, I think that was my biggest question, was not being involved this time, just wondering how you guys did it. Obviously, the skeleton crew makes sense because you guys do tend to do that. And, time management, we've talked about before, is a strength of you guys in general in terms of scheduling, not wasting anyone's time, having the shots in order, and really just kind of banging them out, like you said. So when I was able to watch it after the fact, that was something that I just noted, was that although it seemed very complex, I know exactly where that was filmed. And I know exactly what those rooms are and how they relate, and could just tell how easily it came together in the script. Like, you really had 3 rooms.
Right.
And just a few angles.
Simple, kept the location simple. Yeah.
Yeah. And so to shoot all of Tony's in the one room real quick, all of JT's in the garage real quick.
It's supposed to be 3 different locations: the painter's garage, people's house, and Tony's.
Right. And it was all shot in the same general location.
Yeah, those rooms were all 15 feet apart.
Yep. Made to look like 3 different spots. And you have to do that when you only have 5 people,
That's what I was going to say. So Sergio behind the camera. And then who helped with like the boom, and that's the only thing I can.
Everyone did, but also Sergio had that boom rig up with one of the tripods and the clamp for it.
Yeah.
So a lot of times it would be set up, and it would be like, all right, this is set up here, angle it this way, and then he'd start rolling.
It was a little old school before we had access to people who wanted to be in our crew.
And that just reminded me, thanks for bringing up the sound thing. It was like, we had the boom stand going, and that's the way we recorded audio, but we still had somebody who needed to operate the recorder for the mic.
You had it running separate.
But it was like, it was nice. We were all 6 feet. I think the only people who were close to each other were Rula and Bill, because that scene required them to be standing next to each other. Everything else, always 6 feet away. Even like Tony was pretty much the person who would be managing turning on the mic for most of the time. But it was like, even he was a good distance away from me. So
you couldn't just give me the credit and call me the sound engineer this one time?
Tony was an amazing sound engineer on set. And you know what? Couldn't have done it without him if he wasn't there.
I love it. If I so much as turn on a light switch, I want that gaffer credit. So I totally get where Tony's coming from. It's fantastic.
No, that's best boy grip right there.
Oh yeah, there you go. Yeah.
How long do you think the shoot took start to finish?
It was 5 hours, 6 hours. Mm-hmm. We started at 12:30. Okay. Right.
Yeah. That's when like the first time you hit record. You mean was like 12:30?
Yeah, because we got to set earlier, but.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we got there at 11:30, but we started filming at 12:30. Am I wrong? Bill, what time did you get there?
So yeah, I was only available for part of that day, and I was
It was
there.
like 1 to 5, right?
Yeah. You had me like 1 to 5, and I think I was able to stretch that to like 6 or something like that.
Yeah, so I'd say that it was about a 5 to 6 hour shoot.
Yeah,
like actual filming.
We wrapped fairly early in the evening on Saturday, as far as filming is concerned, which is great.
Nice.
Yeah,
and no big edits in terms of graphics. Did I miss
just
something?
the one? As far as like other than the credits and the intro, like it was just the one where I'm getting the text.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
That's really the most time I spent on After Effects.
We really kept this one simple.
Yeah,
we did.
Hey, but it apparently it worked.
Yeah, it did okay. People seem to like it, which is good.
Yeah, so we did most of the editing, and I kind of just came back and was his second eyes and ears and made some tweaks here and there, and we bounced ideas off each other and shit. So.
Which I think is the biggest takeaway for anyone who's listening, who's thinking about doing a 48. It's literally like the easier, simpler, less locations, less graphics intense things you need. And like keeping it simple is really key to making it, to become successful.
And then if there's one bit of advice for anybody thinking of doing it, prepare for not being prepared. And that's not going to make any sense. But do one, and then for the next one, it will make total sense. So there you go.
That's a good point. Really good point.
Yeah.
But no overnights or anything this time around, obviously, because of the distancing.
No.
I'll tell you what, this time, because it was able to be, dropped off mobily or, via computer. Yes. Last year, we made the trip with Sergio to drop it off, and it was just hell driving there. And then it was worse on the way home because we stopped at a casino.
We may or may not have stopped at the Potawatomi for a few hours.
That's a self-inflicted problem there.
But like the thing, like the time that's saved on that is insane. You know what I mean? From kickoff to drop off,
and the money. Apparently.
Oh yeah, for sure.
Didn't have to spend money on gas, and have to.
I'd say that's one perk of doing it during a pandemic. You know what I mean? Just the time and money that's saved.
Yeah, and again, that was it's so awesome when we heard that we were going to be able to. Teams were allowed to do this, remotely. And turn in the films remotely was fantastic. I think I don't know if we would have. Maybe we wouldn't have participated this year. I'm not sure. I don't know. I think there would have been more of a conversation, though. I think when we found out we could do it remotely, we were like, "Well, of course we're doing it."
Yeah.
So I think it was more of a right away answer since they allowed us to do that, and all the teams. I think that was very, very awesome of them. I wonder if more cities are going to do that this year and moving forward. I think they should. I think it opens up a lot more opportunities, but we'll see going forward how they treat that. But that was very interesting and kind of them to have this year.
Well, I'm glad you guys had that opportunity. I mean, I think being so excited to jump at the opportunity, just to be creative at a time where everyone had to figure out how to transition to do what they were doing in a different way.
Yeah, it felt so good too. Yeah. It was just it's like a drought, and then all of a sudden there's this refreshing rain that comes in, and you're like, oh my gosh, where has this been?
Yeah, there's a creative element.
It felt really good to be on a set and having a camera roll.
Oh,
it was
sure.
Awesome.
And to just connect with friends for even half of a day. I'm sure it did so much to lift your spirits and reconnect everyone, because it's been hard being alone.
Yeah, we don't just all work together. We also like each other too. Yeah, so, there's that, of course.
So you got to do what? Mobile or not mobile? What's the word I'm looking for?
Oh, digital?
Digital! You got to do a digital drop-off. Yeah,
digital drop-off.
But then screening-wise, what happened?
So they actually did that digital as well. So they had a venue. And Sergio, maybe you can talk more about this. What was how did you hear about how they were going to show it and everything? Tell that process, how they were going to do the screenings.
So the very cool thing about the screening is it was left optional to be able to go to the screening, and Warren actually took the time to find a venue that had outdoor space that they could put up a screen. I believe it was more of a banquet hall, but he rented, a nice large projector sound system and a large screen. And they had it as a tented, covered outdoor location. But then he took a step further. For anyone who just didn't feel comfortable going, he found a service that I forget the name of the service, but it was basically a streaming application that it was actually pretty cool. It's the first time I used this service. It's like if you wanted to do the streaming version, you paid $8. You got a code. You put in the code, and it streamed the live premiere screening that was being played at the venue for everyone to see. And it was very convenient. We obviously stayed in our own homes. None of us took the drive up to Milwaukee to be there, mainly because there was a big storm that was happening earlier in the day that was just like, I don't think I want to risk driving up in a storm, but I thought the streaming service was great. I thought the way Warren put the order of, he started with the films that weren't on time, then he played all the films. And what I thought was really cool that he did was he set up interviews with all of the team leaders to just ask a bunch of questions. And at the end of the screening, he edited down I think it was like 15 to 20 minute video of all of these random questions that all the team leaders were able to answer. And you really got to get wasn't it great? It was a nice little insight behind, what each team went through.
There was one guy who looked like Jon Stewart. It was really cool.
The choice to do it after all the films was great because then you feel like you're in it at that point. You feel like these people, right? You're still like in that viewing mood, and you're like, they're talking about that film. Oh, they're talking about that film.
Yeah,
exactly. That little behind the scenes part at the end of it when it's still fresh in your mind.
Exactly.
Was awesome. It was like a nice little post credits, if you will, to the whole event. So I thought that was great.
Because this event usually happens live in front of an audience at the theater, I love that he took the time to have that little part where he was pressing the applause buttons.
Yeah.
It was just like a cute little thing. And I was like, all right. Yeah. He's making
Warren
us feel like we're
very
there.
he's very quirky. I love it.
It was great.
It's funny.
Yeah. And I'll make sure to do this for all the listeners who may be interested to see the experience that we're talking about. You can actually go to the 48-hour link. I'll put it in the blog post for this podcast, and you'll be able to go on and you can actually stream it and download the premiere screening yourself for just $2.99, which isn't too bad. And you get to see all of these films that we're about to talk about, and as well as those interviews. So I'll make sure to add that to the blog post.
That's a great segue there, Serge.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's use it. And let's get ready for these other
There
films.
we go.
So before we do that, Sergio, if you could really quick go over the elements that were required for this year's Milwaukee 48-hour film project.
Sure. And in case there's anyone listening who isn't familiar of how this works, you basically have 48 hours to write, shoot, and edit a short film that is going to be between 4 minutes and 7 minutes long, not including credits. And the way they keep people honest is by requiring 3 specific elements to be included in your film. And everybody is given these exact same elements. And what they are is it has to have a specific character. And that character is Parker Gervasey, who is a house painter. You have to have a specific prop, which is an egg. And finally, you have to have a specific line of dialogue. And this year, the line was, you can't trust a word he says, or you cannot trust a word he says. So I guess if you don't really care for contractions, you can always go for the cannot versus can't.
Yeah, but either way, it's got to be verbatim, right?
Yeah, it needs to be verbatim. But the thing that I think is most genius about this is every team is like basically picks a genre out of a hat. And that is truly what makes it fun, because you get to see all of these teams working from the same, elements, but you'll get a horror film, you'll get a sci-fi film, you'll get a thriller, you'll get a romance. For us, we got Fish Out of Water, which was really fun to play with, because I don't think we ever had that genre before, which is just making sure that the main character is in a situation that they are uncomfortable or haven't experienced. Is that a good way of saying?
I think so. That sums it up. And I guess in regards to the genre thing, one thing that has been implemented in recent years that wasn't always this way was when you pick now, you get two genres to choose from, and it was not always so, kids. So if you're new to the 48, back in the day, you used to pick a genre, and then you could either go with that genre or you got one wild card pick.
Wild card.
If you chose to switch it up, you had to do the wild card. You couldn't just see what it was and then go back to your original. You had
And
to give it up.
the wild card categories were different than the normal categories.
They were, and some of them were pretty wild,
Yeah.
to say the least. But that used to be the way they did it, and now I very much prefer. This is more of a personal opinion. I don't know how you guys feel, but I prefer the this or that when you pick.
Yeah, for sure.
It's a little bit easier, a little bit, it gives you a little more variety because you don't feel like you're glued to a certain genre. You can kind of, when you're brainstorming, play with both of them and see which one works better. I think that's, to me, more enjoyable than the gamble that it was at one point.
Every time they've done it that way, though, the new way of like having the choice, do you feel like they give you opposite ends of each spectrum in terms of genres, or are they kind of similar?
You know what? Not always, because sometimes you find yourself joining the two.
Yeah.
And their rule is you just have to be true to at least one of them or a combination. And like sometimes they really lend themselves to each other. And I'm sure sometimes they don't.
Very
but like
true.
if you get horror and sci-fi and you're like, all right, alien horror movie, let's do this. So
Yeah.
sometimes it does work that way. And I'm imagining sometimes it doesn't. Like what was our other one this year?
There's actually a couple in this in the Milwaukee 48 this year that
the
took advantage of both.
the Western thriller one, the Fox.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, we'll get to those, but yeah, that's definitely one of them that absolutely qualifies as both. I think.
You know what I find interesting is like all the years we've been doing this, like we have gotten like a surprisingly little amount of repeat,
Yeah.
Because there's only like X amount of genres that they do for this thing. And like we've somehow like, we haven't like just magically picked like the same three things like every other year or something.
And also there are some that we have still never even had the option to do yet.
Yeah.
Like Western, for example. Western's one of them. We have never had Western as an option yet.
It's true.
And silent
one
film.
year, I hope it happens eventually. I don't know how long we're going to keep doing it, but I hope it does. It'd be kind of fun to tackle that one time, but yeah, we haven't. Like that's just one off the top of my head that I know we haven't even had as like an option yet to pick. So you never know. And then there's teams that get the same thing every time, it feels. So who knows? I mean, it's luck of the draw in that sense.
Yeah.
That being said, should we get into these films?
Do it.
Do it.
All right, let's do it. Let's talk about them. So we, again, were able to view all these films remotely through the live stream, which is awesome. And here's what we got on them. We wanted to give a little shout out to all the teams that participated in the Milwaukee 48 this year. And man, there's so much good that came out of it, and we are always, inspired and just blown away every single year with the amount of talent and creativity that comes out of these. That comes out of the 48-hour film project in general and comes out of these film festivals. So here we go. Without further ado, we're going to go in order the way they were shown. So again, if you guys have a chance, we'll add the link, I think, when we post this, so you guys can rent the videos if you would like to. It's only $3. Throw $3 to the Milwaukee 48. It's a good cause. All right, you got $3. All right, here we go. First film up was entitled Exterminated. That was by Good Entertainment, and that was a sci-fi. What'd you guys think of this? I'm going to start off and say I love that opening, that black and white, almost like title sequence. Almost.
Yeah, it was with the like overhead mirror shot, right?
Yes, yeah.
Kind of like they had it reflecting off itself.
Oh, I thought that was so cool looking.
Yeah, it looked really good in the beginning, and then it kind of continued in too. Like the cinematography, was pretty good. Like whatever they shot it on, I'm interested to ask because it looked nice. And I'll say the one thing that jumped out the most for me though was that location, man.
Yeah.
Oh God, yeah.
It was gorgeous.
Yes.
It's like it really reminded me of Nickels and Dimes and Swept Away, kind of a combination of the two.
Sure.
I'd love to shoot something there at some point.
Yeah. Yeah, that location was awesome for them, and for that setting for a sci-fi. It really set the mood, right off the bat. There was this kind of what is going on type thing there, which is perfect, I think, for sci-fi. That really leans into the genre where you kind of know there's maybe hints in the dialogue, maybe hints in how people are acting, but you really don't know what's going on. I thought that was very cool about it.
I agree. And as soon as it came on, I was like really drawn to the two actors, the two characters. They were just, I thought they did a really good job. I hate to bring up a negative, but like the audio wasn't, I think that was their only downfall, was the audio, because like I thought they did a really good job with the cinematography, like you mentioned, Tony. And then overall the characters, the actors, I thought they had really good facial expressions. It's just, there was those couple times where it's like, I couldn't hear, or it was kind of echoey. I feel like if they would have just had that audio nice and crisp, like that would have been pretty awesome film.
That's a perfect point to make, to talk about how important audio is. You know what I mean? You could have a great film, and then with audio issues, it just takes the audience out of it. Because like, you know, the way it started, I was so excited to find out what was going on with these two. And then the audio issues started, and it's like, man, it's like, wait, what'd they say there? I missed that. And now you're just kind of, you're not completely out of it, but you're thinking of the audio instead of just hearing it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
So,
and any kind of little like notes that we're going to say like that, just FYI, they're coming from a good place, guys. We've had the
same issues for sure.
100%. For example, with this one, I can say with all honesty, before we had a boom mic, we used what is known forever as a broom mic, which is exactly what it sounds like. It's a microphone duct taped to a broom. And that's what we used for early 48s.
And that was a microphone that was like one of Sergio's old like band microphones or something.
Yeah, and
from,
it
like,
worked,
the PA system.
sure, but the sound still wasn't great. So we took a lot of time figuring out how to do sound. And there are still some times where we go, oh man, that one set was, it was beautiful, but it was still like there was a large echo and stuff like that. So. That's what we mean by that. But yeah, oh my God, did this film just look incredible? And I have written down here green blood. I'm a sucker for any kind of practical effect, and I thought the green blood, which turned out to be like some kind of like maybe oil or something because he was a robot, right? I thought that was a really cool effect they added in there. I thought it looked great.
Yeah, I have two things that come to mind. The first is something where I need to just pause for one quick second and say, Sergio, were you in a band? And can we talk about this later?
In a separate podcast? Yes, we will.
I don't know this, and I'm really upset that I don't know this. I need to know this. So we'll talk about this another time. The second of all, the opening that you guys mentioned first, and I don't know the technical term for that kind of a shot.
Oh, neither do we. It's okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
But it reminded me instantly of like those ink blot tests that you see people do.
Yeah, for sure.
And also I've been involved in the 48 for, I think this is going on my 9th year, and I haven't seen every film that gets submitted every year, but we usually are a part of 2 or 3 different screenings, and there's about 10 or 12 in every group that we see. Cause Chicago's entries are usually around like 60-ish films
that's true.
per year. I have never, in anything that I've seen anyone use that kind of a shot ever.
Out of all the years in the 48, having like that overhead Rorschach ink block.
Yeah.
It was
So
beautiful.
that was
It really
just
pulls you in immediately.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And refreshing too, to be like, I've never seen anybody use that. I'm instantly now engaged.
That's a good point. Right.
Yeah.
That's yes, instantly engaged. And like watching it, I was like, all right, we're watching a 48 festival. Here we go. This is how you started out. I'm in. Let's go.
And you know what? To your point, to all of us saying how we really enjoyed that opening, because like we did, and it draws you in. Each one of these films has something where, as I'm watching it, I'm like, shit, that's good. Like, oh no, is this going to be the one that takes us out, or which one's going to be like, who's the monster, who's the juggernaut? Because there's always 2 or 3 every year that are like, shit. How are we going to beat that? Or how are we going to go from there? And at the same time, you're still rooting them on because you're just like, yes, or, how did they do that? I can't believe they did that in 48 hours. But at the same time, you're like, oh, I can't believe you did that in 48 hours,
That's where the inspiring thing comes in, that I was saying earlier. Like, we really do mean that, because no matter what your film was, no matter what side of the camera you were on during that process, I mean, we pull and learn from every single source that we have available to us, and recommend you do that too. Look at what other teams do. Look what works. Look what doesn't work, and learn from it, and get better. You know what I mean? Like get better at your craft. I mean, that's how we do it. We learn so much from just watching other teams do their thing and do it so well, and things that we never would have thought of. That is just, it's amazing, really. So, yeah, the inspiring thing is not just like, a turn of phrase that we like to say. We really do mean that. We pull a lot from these festivals. So, anything else on Exterminated, guys? Let's go to number 2. The second film shown was Morale Men by Mistakes Were Made, and it was a road movie.
Oh, this is the Hitmen.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. These guys make me laugh. This young team, they're very funny, though. They've got, I hope they keep doing this because they have a great sense of humor, and it showed up in this film. So, anybody have initial thoughts on Morale Men?
I don't know if it was intentional or not, but I love the fact that the 2 hitmen that do this for a living had completely different ski masks on. I thought it was hilarious.
Yeah.
Like, intentional or not, it lent itself to those 2 characters, and kind of what a perfect little mess they were.
Yes.
I believe, I'm trying to think about in the post interviews of the screenings, this was one of the kids, I think they said that they changed their genre, I believe.
I think they had the choice of either road movie or horror, I think
he said he wishes he would have, I can't remember which one it was. He might have said
I think he did say he wishes he would have done horror, right?
Right, but I think, I think road movie is one of those things, it's one of those genres you get and you're like, well, wait, what's a road movie? You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So for maybe someone who hasn't been doing the 48 as long, it might be one of those things. Like I don't know what we would do for a road movie. I don't think we've ever been put in that situation yet. Yeah,
I don't know if that might be another one where we haven't had the option yet either.
Right.
I'm not recalling it right now off the top of my head.
I just keep thinking of when we filmed Dial M for Uber, just trying to get those shots back and forth on the expressway.
It's tough in the car.
Yeah, it doesn't always have to be in the car,
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you could have one shot driving down the highway to a gas station and everything takes place there, It's just one of those things. But, yeah, man, I thought they did a good job. It was funny. I mean, there's something interesting about, these 2 hitmen who essentially have no morals suddenly have an issue killing somebody that wants to die. And they then convince the guy to not want to die just so they can feel better about doing their job. So, yeah, it was definitely an interesting take.
Yeah, and the victim who hired them, who wants to be a victim, is absurd, but it works in a weird way. That was very, very funny. I wrote down serial killer sandwich. That whole, so we're like a serial killer sandwich. That whole line was oh god, very, very funny. Yeah, they gave me and maybe this was the costuming too. They gave me if you guys are familiar with Cowboy Bebop, which is an anime, they gave me that kind of vibe. They gave me this is a very nerdy reference, but I don't care. I've mentioned it before on the podcast, but in Final Fantasy VII, there's a group of guys called the Turks who are competently incompetent, and that the characters that the assassins were playing very much reminded me of that as well, which is just very fun to play with. I loved how they were good at their jobs, but they kind of weren't. It was just this nice little back and forth that they had. So yeah, I thought again, the jokes were there. It's a very, very funny group.
I agree 100% with that. And that was the thing that I thought for me shined the most for them is for what they look like, they were very young, but their performances, they felt very natural and committed to the role, and they were all playing their parts. And that's what I really enjoyed about this one, is that they were selling their characters, and that made me very happy in its own right. Because even the one scene where the 2 hitmen are in the foreground and the guy who ordered them is in the background, and he's just doing some really funny character acting in the background with the bit with the paintbrush, and I'm like, oh my god, these kids know they've got that in them to know what would be funny on screen, of having someone in the background doing something ridiculous,
Right.
to sell that comedy while the two characters are in the foreground saying the dialogue. And I'm like, that's what I really enjoyed about it, is like, yeah, they were young, but they really sold the characters for me.
Absolutely. Going to move on to number 3. Side note: this film won Best Use of Prop, which was an egg, and that film's name is Poultry Panic by 2646 Media, and they had family or climate film. I feel like this was a bit of both. I feel like this could qualify as both with
Sure.
that genre. Really quick notes I have written down. I think I'll just do this for all of them, and that'll start the conversation moving forward.
Yeah.
But I have summoning a chicken, perfectly absurd, and current events about going stir crazy, being home in a pandemic. I think this film touched on that very, very well. But what did you guys think about Poultry Panic?
One thing I thought that was really, really good about this particular film was the cinematography. It was nice and clean and well shot. I thought the coloring of it, everything was like perfect, nice and clean from shot to shot. So if anything, I got to give them props with the camera work on this one.
I want to shout outs to the father and son actors. I thought they were fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
They definitely both had great looks, and I thought their performances were really good.
Yeah, the whole they really leaned into the absurdity, which I love, because this whole premise of this film was, absurd, which I'm always a big fan of. That always gets me. We.
Oh, you know what? There's something like this year we didn't get to have like the Q&A with the audience and the filmmakers. So if this
what would you have asked them? Yeah.
If this group is listening, I want to know what was special about that batch of eggs and why it was going into the cow room. Because I kept waiting for that answer, and then it ended, and I was like, "Where's my answer about that special batch of eggs?" Like,
see, and I like not knowing. I think that's great.
Man, she made it very clear. I was like, "Is that just some sort of MacGuffin to get me focused on that?"
The cow room is like the noodle incident in Calvin and Hobbes.
There you go. Yeah, right.
I just want to know who on set was the one that was like, "Wait, the prop is an egg, you guys. I have a giant chicken head that I've been dying to use."
You know what?
Certainly,
I mean, you have to. If we had that, we'd be. This chicken head's going in this film.
Yeah, literally, that guy almost sold that at a garage sale 3 years ago, and he's so happy it was still sitting in his garage.
Yeah, and I feel like that was an instance where they were able to say, like, "Hey, based on this prop, we have this other great prop. We're going to write a story around that."
Yeah.
Yeah. So good job not selling that at the yard sale. But also, who did that belong to? I need to know who that belonged to.
Yeah, right?
Great.
It worked out.
Like, did they call a friend? Like, "George, remember that chicken head?" Or like, did it belong to one of the crew where they were like, "Guys, wait, we've been waiting for this. This is my moment. It's happening."
That's even funnier if they knew somebody with a chicken head.
Mm-hmm.
And you have to call them and have that conversation, right?
Yep.
George, hey, George, you still got that chicken head lying around? Because I need it. Yeah, perfect. Next film up was You Are On by Established Heroes. It was a buddy film. Some things I wrote about it. If you remember, it was the one where the kids are watching the internet personality, kind of tell them about this contest to submit your own video for a contest, right? Kids are always a winner, first of all. I mean, there's just something so genuine and so sweet about when you see these kids reciting these lines and everything.
That's because you have one now.
Yes.
You're getting stuffed in your old age.
Father aspect. Maybe I am. Maybe I'm a little biased. But I thought, I mean, come on, man. That's always cute. That's always it's great.
It was cute to see a father make a movie with his kids.
Heck yeah. Good on that dad for doing that.
That movie had some like graphics in it, and like so it's like for the first like couple of shots, I actually thought that there was just one kid and he just doubled him.
Oh wow.
And then after a while, I started looking at their interactions. I'm like, oh, no, that's actually two kids. Like,
Yeah.
It's actual twins. It's actual
Yes.
twins.
there was an actual moment where I actually thought like he doubled up his own, like just one song or something.
Yeah.
I love how like the internet personality guy had like the crazy hair and stuff too, because like all these social media like wild people that like, you know, your kids are watching, they all have something like that too. So I thought that was pretty accurate. I'm like, oh man, this guy looks slightly crazy and my kids are watching him, but that's okay. You know, it's pretty much what they all look like. I thought that was pretty accurate.
Well, I just like to all the points you guys are making. I thought it was fun. I love the fact that this dad is making films with his kids, and the fact that these two young little kids. I have a feeling like a lot of this was from their minds. At least I'm envisioning like these kids kind of playing director, and like if they're thinking this way at this age and they're already playing with camera and playing with effects, who knows what they're going to be doing in the next 5 to 10 years? You know,
They're the next Russo brothers, man.
Exactly.
They're going to be making whatever the Avengers is, 15 years from now.
Exactly.
So yeah. Next film up, To Make an Omelet. Oh boy. Chair on Stair, dark comedy food.
The Bake Off.
Yeah, the excellent Bake Off. Fantastic pun. They get points for
it. It was kind of fun. I also just like kind of didn't know what was going on. Like, hold on. Okay, so in the beginning, like there's like a body in a field or something. Like
he murders people, JT.
Yeah, he does. Like
it's a dark comedy and also about food.
I was like, are we flashing back now? Like, I don't know. I was a little confused about that opening shot, but
I'm going to assume that he murdered the guy who won.
Oh, okay.
That's what I'm going for.
Yeah, I see that for sure. Either way, my favorite part, the stepping over the body bit, is my favorite thing. And if you guys don't remember, it's when the lady who's in the middle in the competition, dies, right? Just kind of drops and everybody keeps ignoring it. The competition is going on.
Right.
The judge is there taking notes. And I'm watching it thinking, I'm like, but she's lying right there. She's lying right there. She's lying right there. And sure enough, you see him take a large step as if there was a body there to go to the next guy. And I'm like, they called it out. Bravo.
Yeah, it was a pretty great moment.
Stepping over the interview afterwards, like how her body was just slumped in front of the interview camera. Because like it makes you think. It means like that means that somebody to set up that
had to pick her up.
Had to pick her up, put her on the couch, and have her dead body there.
Yeah.
Say nothing.
Yeah, they leaned into the dark comedy aspect for sure.
Yeah.
That was another one for me where all I noticed when they got to the bake-off element of it, where they were obviously on their film set, was I was like, okay, who again made this phone call and got 3 KitchenAid mixers to show up on set? Because those things are really, really expensive, and I feel like that's
they're very expensive and very heavy.
Yeah, and that's what you register for when you get married, right? So I was
I was gonna say you never buy those; you get those gifted to you.
And I don't even think I know anyone in my friend circle, unless Tony, you've got one, or Bill, that even has that. So I was like, dang, once again, someone made the call where they were like, guys, we need mixers. And 3 magically showed up and they were perfect.
You know what those are? Those are all COVID mixers that people purchased during the quarantine because they had nothing else to do except make brownies.
That's true.
Yeah.
And banana bread. Wasn't that the craze for a little while too?
I was making bread for a while. I got a separate podcast called The Yeasty Boys. It's about my endeavors in bread. It was overshadowed by the Biscuit Bunch, but that's a conversation for another time.
Cool. Next up, we have one that was a little bit more on the dramatic side, as it was a drama. That film was called Listen, and that was by the 96. And as I said, it was a drama, and it was a powerful one too. I thought it had a very strong message in there, and that message was in the title to listen. And Yeah, this one.
No, that was good. Like about like the one character is kind of like, should she take action or should she just let the other person be? And it made a good case for taking action. So
Well, and to that point, like I think, well, one drama. First, have we ever had drama on our end? I don't think we have.
No.
To be honest, but like drama to me, I think because so much of the stuff that we do is more of the comedic type of work. I feel like drama is a hard genre to get, but then they also tackled, suicide, head on, and that's also a very tough topic to, I'm wondering, like, when they were in the writing room, were they questioning, should we go down this road or what? Because like they decided to go head on with that issue. And to me, it's like, bravo for doing it, because people are depressed. And that's a really big thing right now, particularly because of COVID, for them to just go straight and say, hey, we're going to make this film, about this topic. To me, I was like, bravo to them for just, taking that step.
Yeah, totally. Real quick, from a technical standpoint in that one, it was done a lot in like not quite frenetic, but like still kind of like very organic close-ups the whole thing through. There was like never a wide shot, never an establishing shot, and like sometimes like the film language person in me wants to say like, hey, pull back a little, you know what I mean? But it actually kind of, I can't tell if it was intentional or not, so I'm just going to assume it was.
That's what I was going to ask. Do you think that on their end was trying to make it more personal?
Yeah.
Or
exactly.
having you more involved?
Right, because that's how I chose to interpret it. You know what I mean? Because at first you're like, oh man, pull back a little. But then after a while you're like, oh man, I don't know if this would have been as hard hitting if they didn't like show the extreme close up of the wrist and like, like all the faces going on. You know what I mean?
JT, I'm so glad you brought that up, because like you just right now reminded me how I felt when I first saw that. I was thinking the same thing, that like they felt very close, but you perfectly said it just right now, because I wasn't thinking about it until you just said it, that like, oh yeah, the whole time I was wondering, why are they doing those close-ups? But that's a really good point. And you said the exact, I remember thinking this when I first saw it, that one shot of the wrist and the blood dripping off the wrist. Right. Like when I first saw that, like when they got to that point, I'm like, that is a great shot.
Right.
Like I was just so focused in the composition that they chose for that. It just drew you in and it made it feel so real.
Right. Because when you're in close-up territory, that's usually when things get kind of claustrophobic for the audience and like gives you more attention, Like even like you can find it anywhere. Like even baseball games do this, where it's like, did you ever notice like in the ninth inning or whatever, it's like
the close up of a glove or somebody like working with a ball in their hand, like when they're about to pitch it.
Yeah.
Like I totally know what you're saying with a baseball game.
Yeah. Like the director, like, like goes like, oh, like just kind of standard baseball stuff. But then suddenly at the end, when it's like, oh, like not bottom of the ninth, 2 outs and stuff, that's when they start pulling the close-ups of the pitcher and the catcher and like all that stuff where you're like, oh, it's getting intense. You know what I mean? Because we're in close now, so it's like, it kind of stayed there the whole time and gave you that uncomfortable feeling,
So I think to that point, JT, that's a good one. Kind of like what I think it was Tony who did this earlier. If the director and editor of this or cinematographer of this film, if you're listening, we're curious, was that intentional? Just because the more you're talking about it, JT, the more you're reminding me of how, I think you said it perfectly with it made it feel uncomfortable, which for this topic, it's a very uncomfortable topic.
Right.
So now I'm thinking like, yeah, they totally were doing this intentionally. So I am curious if it is intentional or not.
Yeah. So I liked it. It was good.
Very good. Next film up, we have this one. This one was pretty fun. This is Beneath the Mask by The Back Burner, and it was a superhero genre.
Oh, this one was funny.
Yeah, so we had the superhero talk show.
Oh, with BM.
Yes. Can't say his name. I just got a kick out of Call Me BM, and then it was puns galore with BM.
Yeah, and really crude puns in front of children, which made it
which made them even better.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. I really appreciated that, and a paint.
They were good actors.
Yeah, a painting houses reference, which
Yeah,
maybe another film did or not. I'm not sure. I forget, but anyway, that was in there too.
Yeah, no, that was a funny one.
Yeah, the merchandising and movie rights line, the reference with at the end, chicks love the car. Oh my God, talking about actual chicks was. I thought it was all very funny. All very. If you are remotely a Batman fan, I think you, or I'm sorry, a BM fan, you appreciated all the jokes in there. But yeah, what did you guys think about that one?
I thought it was funny. I thought it was nice to see another, parent and children work together on something. And yeah, just like you already said, man, the puns were great. It was really funny, and like the quality of his mask, I was impressed with too. I was like, oh, this is like a legit Batman costume he's got on.
It was like the Michael Keaton, that was like the Tim Burton costume.
Yeah,
right?
man. Yeah, it was good.
It was like movie quality.
But you put cute kids in there with some funny puns. I mean, yeah, it's going to be great.
Yeah, that's a great job. Whenever you can get the kids involved, always a winner. Next up, we have the winner of Best Sound Editing, Best Costumes, and Best Cinematography, and it deserved all those awards and then some. That's The Fox, yes, by Pogo Pro Films. Thriller, suspense, and Western were their choices. I think they included all of them. I think it's safe to say they definitely qualified for all those genres there. Some things I wrote down about this one, just to get the conversation going. Beautiful, first of all. The way it was shot, the location they had was beautiful. And I have the Fox story. So when we actually get to the Fox story, I really loved that sequence. But what do you guys have to say about that one? Great film.
As you already said, man, it was shot beautifully. This is another one of those films that when it started, I was like, oh no, it's so pretty looking. You know what I mean? Like there's always that moment where you're just scared, like, this is going to be the one, this is who takes us out. Yeah, it was beautiful, man. I think there's this one shot where it's just kind of that rack focus between the two characters during their dialogue where it was just done really well. They really nailed it. So yeah, shot that shot for sure. And then the first shot of them when they're in the barn where it's kind of silhouetted, you've got the dark shadows on each side and then the sun's coming through. It was awesome.
That was really well done. Oh man, yeah, it was one of those things where right when you saw that first shot, because it was like everything was just like regular old white balance or whatever, and then suddenly you got this 233x1 perfectly color graded shot with a person on an actual horse, and you're like, oh man, whoa. Yeah, we're in film territory now, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, they really brought it with that, and I love, speaking of that shot, the bookend aspect of it. I'm a huge fan of bookending any story, really, but the fact that shot was basically the same of her writing in and then her writing out,
right?
Well done on that one. Very cool.
I was just going to echo what all of you guys said. Like when this first queued up, that cinematic shot and great camera work and all of that, and they great sound design too. I was just like, shoot, I don't know if we're going to be able to take this team on because it was such a great film. The thing that I want to point out is that monologue from the female lead where she just goes into that story about the fox. Like, it's very, I got to give her total credit because like monologues are to me, I think that's the hardest thing. I know I can't act. So whenever one of you guys have to do a long monologue, it's like I have nothing but respect. So, right, for her to do that great monologue for the whole Fox story, I was like, man, that really added to that scene and really kind of like, it really brought the whole story about, this guy stole her brother's horse and now she wants the revenge type of thing. It was just good writing and a great performance of that dialogue for me in that one scene. So I really thought when this was over, I was like, all right, this is the team that won. Honestly, that was in my mind after this film ended.
I don't want to be critical or anything. It's one of those things where it's like I'm extra critical of something when it's so close to perfection. You know what I mean? You want to kind of tell the B+ why it wasn't an A more than you want to tell the C- why it wasn't a C. You know what I mean? And this time, I think it was like, I just think the acting needed to be a little more intense, like, it's not like the people were bad. It's just that like, I think they needed to like get better takes or something, or like just be a little more, just like add a little more oomph to what they were saying,
Sure. Yeah. I think it's always tough in when you're talking like short films like these that can only be like 6-7 minutes long to get that kind of like emotion to play through. But that being said, I thought that whole sequence, going back to what Sergio said about the Fox story, I love how that kind of builds, and how at the end you don't really know what she's getting at until she, when she asks the guy, you ever feel like a fox? And then that's the first time you go, oh shit, But yeah, I totally hear what you're saying too. It's just, yeah, man, it's tough, and like it's just them two on a table, like that's the scene, like it's tough conditions for performance wise, in a lot of ways. But yeah, for sure.
It's not me trying to be a jerk. It's more like me trying to find out why they didn't.
100%.
Right. And a lot of the times, questions like that, the answers are, it was a 48. You know what I mean? We were losing daylight. We only had enough for this, or, so.
True. That was a very timely scene. Or had to be perfectly timed scene.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the lighting and everything. That's a good point, Tony. It's a very good point.
Yeah. But like that one was, it really was incredibly shot.
Yeah, I think we can all agree that, The Fox was a fantastic film all around. And that led us into the next film that was shown, which is a little bit of a different film, A Taste of Heaven by Electric Crayon Studio, fantasy. And I say a little bit different in a loving way, because this one was also absurd, and I am such a fan of absurdity. But yeah, this one had a little bit of absurdity to it. Everything from the mob boss or crime boss type character eating the egg.
Oh, see, I thought right? He was the devil.
He could have been, yeah, maybe. You see, that's the thing. Like,
I was a little confused with it, but I thought he was the devil.
There was a lot going on in this one, and
like Hadoukens and shit.
Kinda, yeah. Right? Like, yeah, there was like at one point it looked like there was like a Hadouken straight up. So it was. I thought it was definitely a fun one. It is pretty cool. It was, maybe a little hard to follow the bouncing ball, but I think the fantasy genre could lend itself to that in some in some aspect. You're not supposed to know everything that's going on right up front, right? And certain things are supposed to be left a little mysterious. But yeah, all in all, those were the vibes I got from it. What did you guys think of A Taste of Heaven?
I mean this in the best possible way. It was just like you said, couldn't follow the bouncing ball the whole time. I was just a little confused with some things.
Okay.
I really dug the performance of the guy who I think was the devil, the one you mentioned. Maybe he was a mob boss or something, the guy who's down there eating the egg.
That's the thing. Now I want to rewatch it because I feel like I missed that part. And you might be right. If he was the devil, that's even better.
I will say the fight choreography, there was some really cool stuff. Maybe some of the camera work that was filming that wasn't used to filming it, because a lot of punches and stuff, it was, there were gaps here and there, but some of it was really cool. Some of the effects that they did were nice. But the ending, I was really lost on. So I don't know. A lot of times in film, I don't catch all the symbolism of things until I watch it a second or a third time. But this was one of those ones where it ended, and I was a bit lost. I don't know. I didn't know if it was some sort of rapture situation. I wasn't sure if that guy was the devil and he let the baby go back down or stay up on Earth, and the women had to stay in hell. I wasn't really sure what happened.
Yeah, I didn't either. I actually looked away for a second or two, and then when I looked back, it was I was like, oh, is this the same movie?
Yeah, it was like a little bit of a rapture, a little bit of rebirth theme going on there is how I took it. But
I could have watched a movie with just those two women in the beginning, though. The funniest part of the thing and the most interesting. So
I love that she's putting on lipstick to then put on a mask and go do that. That to me was such a great bit.
again, I'm going to echo you guys on that. Like I thought I thought the two women were funny, and just the fact that the pregnant woman, where she's just like, when they're like wheeling the one woman into that one room, that she needs to take a break and like kind of like stretch her belly and just like, take a breather and then continue. Like those were like fun little bits for those two characters.
And I can say accurate too.
Yeah. As you know,
I currently live with a pregnant woman. So yes, those are accurate motions. Good acting. Very good acting. Let's go to, then after that, a film called Two Coats was shown. That one was fine. Next film is called Fairy Tale Romance by Bad Example Productions, and it was a romance genre. This one won Best Score and Best Graphics, and yeah, again, rightfully so. Awesome. Very cool. Animation is always cool.
Yeah, it was awesome.
They had this kind of cool paper. I don't know, JT, maybe you can help us with this. I don't know if it's called is it paper mache animation? Is there a certain word for this? But it was definitely like some paper.
Yeah, I don't know if it was all stop motion or what was that?
Stop motion, yes, true. But really quick, before to get this thing started, one thing I have to mention, because you guys know I'm a sucker for this, the voice performance in this film was excellent, along with the editing of those voices as well. Things like the Guardian's voice were done so very well, and it was just incredible. I thought I really loved it. I got really into the story because of how good the storytellers were. But yeah, what did you guys think of Fairy Tale Romance?
I dug it, man. I've been wanting us to try some sort of stop motion thing for a while, but not for a 48 because it's terrifying that we don't have a whole lot of experience with that. Right. But I think something like that's really cool. Yeah, I was really impressed. I don't know how it works. It's like, all right, do you draw this thing and then draw a separate thing and then you just kind of move it from the bottom as your camera's rolling and then go back? You know what I mean? I don't know. I'm not sure exactly what goes into it, but yeah, I thought they did it really well. And to echo you, the acting was really great.
I am going to make a total assumption, but this assumption is also based on the fact that not last year, but 2 years ago when we first did a Milwaukee, I believe this team also submitted a film in the same way, where the way they described it is it's all hand-drawn elements. It is stop motion where they have a camera taking pictures of each movement, but they are designing, they'll like draw out a set and then cut out the pieces in paper, and then they'll cut out the characters and have and create these characters where they're mobile. They'll be able to adjust an arm, adjust a piece, and stuff like that.
Okay.
I'm assuming it's the same team because the artwork is very similar to what I saw two years ago.
Yeah, the name sounds familiar. Bad Example sounds very familiar.
Yeah, and I feel like they've done this type of work in the past. And from what I remember, like I said, 2 years ago when I went up and saw the screening, and they were in the same screening as us, and they were a production company that do this type of work regularly, but they described it as literally that, where they have multiple artists draw out pieces and parts of limbs and parts of, the props and things, and they'll just move that stuff, whether it's on a stick or a string or whatever, and just take photographs of all of that stuff and manipulate that into films. So as long as it's the same team, I believe that was the process. And with that being said, like, it's just so impressive. So I hope that any listener who is thinking about, paying that $2.99 to watch this premiere, there are so many cool films to see, but just from like a really cool, unique process, like check out this film because you don't see too much work like this nowadays. It's, like not when you see animation and graphics, it's usually digital. And this is a team that is going old school, 2-dimensional cardboard cutout drawings and really moving the pieces one by one and just telling really cool, fun stories. So that's my compliment to this team, which is they are working with a medium and that is very unique, and it's just fun to see work like this still being done.
Yeah, and they do it very well. They're excellent storytellers. It's very good. So next up, we've got the winner of Best Editing, which is The Eggs the Thing by BS Incorporated. And that was a comedy / subculture genre there. So it's a very, very wild film for sure. Maybe had the best joke in the entire festival for Milwaukee, which is right at the beginning. And there were good jokes throughout. It's a very, very, very funny piece. But 2020 is going to be my year.
Yeah.
Cut to March of 2020 is a great joke. So if you're listening, whoever wrote that sequence, props. Because it's so timely. It's so accurate. You have this guy talking about the theater in January of 2020, and then he says, I feel like this is going to be my year. Cut to 2 months later, I'm cupping my hands, holding them to my mouth and going, mwah, well done, well done. But yeah, a musical during a pandemic. They host the auditions in a parking garage. Just all around absurdity, funny, very well done. What do you guys think of this one? I loved it. I think I laughed. I missed a lot of lines because I was laughing with this one.
I want to chime in really quick. And yes, that bit was the funniest bit about it being its best year. But for me, the second best bit of this one was when the female actress she just talked about like, oh, and they moved the auditions to a garage, and I forgot how she said it, but it was like, and it makes total sense because the acoustics are great. And it's just like, no, it's a garage. Sound bounces everywhere. It's like the worst place for sound. So I really hope that that's what they meant about that bit, because I burst out laughing. Yeah, I burst out laughing when she said that. Oh, and it's a garage. The acoustics are great. I'm like, no, it's like sound bouncing everywhere. It was awesome. That to me was hilarious.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was interesting to find out like how, and this is another thing. Shout out to Warren for showing the mini documentary. The questions at the end was, we found out a lot of that was improvised. So man, did they really deserve editing, because that editor had to be straining his or her brain to try and find sequences that made sense, because the amount of improvisation that was done and the quality of it too, though, everything was seemed just so funny and perfect, and everything from the initial part to through the audition to the rehearsals just really, really worked for me, which is an incredible risk, I think, to take too. To improvise during a 48. You can improvise some scenes, sure, or some lines here or there, but to improvise that much you have to really trust your performers, and in this case, your editors as well. So I think that was a great risk, and it paid off for them. It really turned out great.
So based on that, because I did not make it this far in my screening process, so I did not see this film yet, but based on what you described, it is 300% exactly what I want out of a film. And so I'm going to watch it immediately. But do you think, like, what's your initial reaction from seeing it with most of it being improv? Did they seem like they were people that worked together a lot and were really comfortable together? Or do you think that they were just a whole bunch of people that signed up for a project and had never met before?
That's a great question. To me, it seemed to me that they had, or at least they knew each other and were comfortable with each other. I would be shocked to find that if I don't know the actor's name offhand, I apologize, but the actor that played the director, of the play, the main lead throughout the whole film, I'd be shocked if he had no improvisational experience. He seemed to be like just on point and just jumping from idea to idea. So, and they all did to that respect. But I'd be surprised if if that was the first time that they all worked with each other, I'm even more impressed than I am right now. So I suspect that they already have, and they already knew each other. But if it's the first time, that's incredible that it worked out that well.
Yeah. I mean, the way that you described it sounds like that, dream team of people that make the mockumentaries, like Christopher Guest, Eugene Levy, Catherine O'Hara.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even know if they have a name or call themselves anything specifically, but they.
Well, BS or it's B/S, but I'm saying BS Incorporated. I think that's a great name for the group.
I didn't know that.
But
yeah, like that. It just, the way you described this film makes my brain go there and just kind of equate it with that, and that's why I definitely want to see it. So thanks.
Excellent.
Thanks for that pitch, because I'm sold.
Well, very good. Did you hear that, BS Incorporated? You're going to get another viewing. There you go. So that one was great, of course. And then wrapping up the 48-hour film project for Milwaukee this year, the final film shown took home trophies for Best Acting and was the runner-up for Best Film. This was a great one all around. This one was called, the title, Goodbye Forever Parker Gervasey, by Pizza Sutra /ISR, and this genre was an action adventure. Another very, very fun film. Another one that had a house painter as an assassin, but the house
hold
painter.
on. Let me chime in here. So it's like this had a mob boss. It had a painter who was also an assassin.
Sure.
So there was that wordplay. This had a gun in a drawer.
Oh, yeah, the silverware. Yep. That's right. The same. Yeah.
And it had a director named Sergio.
What? That's really funny. Yeah, it did.
I didn't realize that. Is that for real?
Yes.
Yeah. Everything you just said was all
that's hilarious.
It was like
scary.
It's like Bizarro Us.
It's like doppelgangers, like Milwaukee doppelgangers. Like
on his interview, he was like, "Yeah, man, I've just been working with these guys. They kind of understand, and we have the same messed up sense of humor." I was like, "Hey, that's us."
That's a very good point. Yeah, a lot of similarities there. But yeah, like I said, like incredibly fun. I have written down fight music. I thought the fight music was great, and then explosion. The explosion was so cool too. I love that sequence.
Dude, this is another one of those ones, and I've said it a bunch today, where when it started, it was like, oh no, this looks good. And it was good. This has one of my favorite visual gags was that egg and that baby Bjorn on his chest. Like, as soon as he said he was going to watch the egg for the day, I was praying. I'm like, give me that Bjorn. Give me that Bjorn. And then it cut to, sure enough, that little egg sitting on his chest, which was hilarious.
Dude, you can kind of see the brainstorming like through the script too, where it's like they reached the same thing we did, where it's like, oh, house painting equals assassin. So it's like, but he was a literal house painter and an assassin, and they were able to take those two dichotomous jobs and like make it into like an interweaving personal story and action story at the same time, where he and his wife and protecting the egg and him like getting rid of his boss, you know what I mean? So it's like, I don't know. It was pretty brilliant how they actually kind of married that conceptually.
Yeah.
Very, very well done. Yeah, very well done all around. Like high marks all around on that one, for sure.
For sure, man. The fight scene was fun. There was that one shot that like went over it was like the overhead movement when he grabbed onto the beam and like swung into the kitchen. And then I was like, all right, man. I'm like, that was really cool, and all sorts of explosions and fun stuff, man. Yeah, it was great. And his performance, I mean, well deserved with Best Actor.
Yeah.
He was really good.
If we had ended up losing to that, I would have been proud to lose to that.
Right.
And I agree with all of that. And it's just like how you said, we're just the fact that we were so similar on so many things, but it really comes down to what we were talking about earlier, where it's like the beauty about the 48 is the fact that we have all these similar elements, but the genre is really what allows these films to be different. So they happen to get action adventure, which caused them to be forced into, not forced, but go down the right of, all right, we're going to have a fight scene and that's blah, blah, blah. And we were fish out of the water, where it's like, our brainstorming process brought us to how we got to the fact where it's like, all right, it's the house painter who needs to feel uncomfortable in this position. So it's just interesting and cool how the 48 really allows people to just come together and come up with unique, creative, fun ideas on a whim in a short period of time and create something unique. And everyone's film is different, but at the same time, they're all fun, creative, and just exciting to watch.
Mm-hmm.
Awesome. And on that note, I just want to say really quick, congrats to all the teams and all the films this year for the Milwaukee 48-hour film project. We were truly just honored and thrilled to be shown amongst you guys, to be just, in the same festival as you guys. Really is important to us and just a thrill for us. We really love it. That's why we continue to enter these festivals every year as much as we possibly can. So congrats to you guys. We look forward to seeing you next year and seeing what you guys will churn out in the years to come. So much talent, so much creativity. We really loved it and had a blast. So thank you for that. Thank you again to Warren and his team of producers and volunteers for the 48-hour project in Milwaukee. Well, heck, I'm bad at this part. So Tony, do your thing and take us out, will you?
Oh, okay. Thanks a lot for listening to Kick Rock's podcast, 2 Drink Minimum. We've been talking about the 48-hour film project, Milwaukee! Boom, boom, boom. All right, guys, have a good one. Chicka chicka pow wow cow now.
And that's going to do it for this episode of Kick Rock's 2 Drink Minimum. Thank you so much for tuning in. Thanks again to the 48-hour film project, Milwaukee, and the entire production staff. We really love participating in this. Congrats to all the films that were shown this year. Our hats off to you guys. You guys were really great. We hope you enjoyed the podcast. If you did, or if you didn't, you can just comment right on our Facebook page. You can comment on our iTunes. You can download and subscribe to our podcast. Hey, you can listen to us on Spotify or whatever your favorite podcast medium is. We don't really care. We're not biased in that. Whatever your choice is, go with it. But thank you so much for tuning in. This has been 2 Drink Minimum. We've been drinking, thinking, and talking shop. Cheers, everybody.